Welcome to another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're all about becoming command line ninjas,
Oh, yeah.
mastering those essential Linux commands that take you from basic file management to hardcore network diagnostics.
Right.
We've got a trove of commands to unpack, each with their own quirks and uses.
Absolutely. And we're not just going to list them off.
Yeah.
We'll uncover the why behind each command.
Right.
Explore those real-world scenarios where they become indispensable.
Exactly. Imagine needing to make a web server directory super secure.
Huh.
Or troubleshooting a laggy connection like a digital detective.
Yeah.
By the end of this, those scenarios won't seem so daunting.
Let's start with the foundation.
Okay.
File management.
Right.
In Linux, you're always interacting with files. So mastering these commands is like learning the alphabet of the command line.
Okay, so if we're talking alphabet, cat has got to be A, B, C.
Yeah.
Just a quick peek at a file's content without altering anything.
Spot on.
Okay.
Then there's mkdir. Think of it as building the framework, creating directories to keep your digital world organized.
Like setting up those perfectly labeled folders?
Yeah.
I love it.
Exactly.
And to populate those folders, we've got crap for copying files or even entire directory structures.
Exactly. KeyP is your go-to for duplication.
Right.
But what happens when you need to remove a file?
Yeah.
That's where ARM comes in.
rm. The command that makes me hesitate every single time.
Right.
It's powerful, but needs to be used carefully, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Deleting the wrong thing
Yeah.
can really mess things up. And for those empty directories, rmdir swoops in to clean them up.
Okay.
Now, speaking of deletion, remember shred.
Oh, right.
It's not just deleting, it's making sure a file is gone beyond recovery.
Yes, shred. The
Yeah.
ultimate digital shredder for sensitive information. But let's be honest, even with regular files, sometimes you don't want to clutter your system with duplicates.
That's where the magic of links comes in. LN lets you create references to files without taking up extra space.
Right. I've heard of hard links and symbolic links, but the difference always trips me up.
Think of a hard link as a clone. It points directly to the same data on your disk. If you change one, the other changes too.
Okay, that's a powerful way to keep things in sync.
Yeah.
What about symbolic links?
Those are more like shortcuts.
Okay.
They point to the file's name, so
Yeah.
deleting a symbolic link won't affect the original file.
So symbolic links are great for organization without the risk of accidentally deleting something important.
Exactly.
Right.
And speaking of importance,
Okay.
let's shift gears to user management and permissions.
Right.
Security is a big deal in Linux, especially when multiple users are involved.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So tell me, what's the first command that comes to mind when you think about user management?
For me, it's got to be WAMI.
Okay.
It's simple,
Yeah.
but crucial.
Right.
Especially when you're switching between different user accounts on a system.
Right.
Just a quick check to make sure you are who you think you are.
Right. Avoiding those whoops, wrong account moments.
Yeah, yeah.
Then we have userad and adducer, the commands for actually creating new users on the system.
Right.
What's the difference between those two?
Userad is your bare bones option, gets the job done quickly.
Okay.
Adducer, on the other hand,
Yeah.
is more interactive, guiding you through the process.
So adducer is a bit more user-friendly,
Yeah.
especially for those starting out. Now, I can't imagine navigating Linux without sudo.
Right?
It's like that magic phrase that unlocks those admin privileges when you need them.
Exactly. But with great power comes great responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important to understand when and how to use sudo properly.
Right.
Otherwise, you could inadvertently make changes that compromise your system's stability.
That's a good point. It's all about balance. Speaking of balance, let's talk about chmod,
Okay.
the command for setting permissions on files and directories.
Yeah.
This one always feels a bit like a puzzle to me.
It can be, but once you grasp the concept,
Right.
it becomes a powerful tool for controlling access.
Okay.
You're essentially deciding who can read, write, and execute files.
So, for example, if I'm building a website and want to ensure only the web server can modify certain files, chump comes into play.
Precisely.
Okay.
And there's a lot of granularity with Trum.
Right.
You can set permissions for the owner of the file, for a specific group, or for everyone else.
So it's not just about making things executable. It's
Okay.
about fine-tuning security and control. What about chown? What role does that play in this permission scheme?
Chown changes the ownership of a file or directory.
Right.
So if you need to transfer control or grant specific access to different users or groups, that's your go-to command.
Okay, so we've covered the basics of managing files and controlling access.
Right.
Now I'm ready to venture into the world of networks.
Networks.
Yes.
the intricate web that connects our digital world.
Yes.
And thankfully, Linux provides a powerful arsenal of commands for exploring and diagnosing those networks.
Let's start with the essentials.
Okay?
Ifconfig and ecapli address.
Yeah.
These are the commands that reveal the identity of your network interfaces.
Right. Show you your IP addresses, MC addresses, and all sorts of other vital stats about your network setup.
So ifconfig is the old guard, the command that's been around forever. Ipaddress is its modern counterpart,
Okay,
offering more features and flexibility.
Exactly. Think of it like this.
Okay.
If config is like a trusty old map, it gets the job done.
Right.
IP address is like a GPS with all the bells and whistles.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And speaking of navigating the digital world,
Right.
we can't forget about resolve vectoral status.
Right.
This one helps us understand our DNS settings, which are crucial for translating domain names into IP addresses.
Right. DNS is like the internet's phone book. And resolve vectoral status lets us peek behind the scenes to see if everything is working as it should.
Okay, so we've identified our network interfaces and checked our DNS settings.
Right.
Now I'm ready to start troubleshooting those pesky connectivity issues.
Yeah.
What's our first tool in the toolbox?
For basic connectivity checks, there's nothing quite like the trusty ping command.
Ah, yes, ping the command that sends out those little digital echoes to see if a remote host is reachable.
Exactly. It's a quick and easy way to test connectivity and get a sense of the network latency.
But what if I want to go beyond a simple ping and actually trace the path my data takes across the internet? That's where traceroute comes in, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Traceroute is like sending a scout ahead to map out the route. It shows you every hop your data takes as it travels from your computer to its destination, revealing any bottlenecks or delays along the way.
That's so cool.
It is.
It's like having X-ray vision for your network traffic.
Yeah.
And for those times when we need to dive deeper into network connections and socket,
Okay.
we have two powerful commands at our disposal, netstat and so.
These are the commands that give you a detailed view of what's happening under the hood of your network connections. They
Right.
show you which ports are open, which processes are using them, and all sorts of other valuable information for diagnosing network issues.
They sound a bit advanced, but incredibly useful for pinpointing those tricky connectivity problems.
They are.
Huh?
But don't worry, we won't get bogged down in the technical details.
Okay.
We'll focus on the practical applications and how these commands can help you troubleshoot real-world network issues.
Sounds good to me. Now, before we move on to the next set of commands,
Okay.
I want to touch on one more crucial aspect of network security, firewall.
Ah, yes, firewalls.
Yeah.
The gatekeepers of our networks, protecting us from unwanted intrusions. And Linux offers two primary tools for managing firewalls: iptables and IP.
Iptables is the veteran, offering granular control over every aspect of your firewall rules. But it can also be quite complex to configure, right?
It is.
Yeah.
That's why IPBRUF, which stands for Uncomplicated Firewall, was created. It provides a more user-friendly way to manage your firewall, making it accessible to a wider range of users.
So Iptables is for the power users who want ultimate control, while Ubera is for those who prefer simplicity and ease of use.
That's a great way to put it. Now that we've fortified our network defenses, let's shift our focus to the heart of your Linux system.
Okay.
The commands that provide insights into its performance, resource usage, and overall health.
It's like getting a checkup for our Linux machine. What are some of the go-to commands for gathering this vital information?
Well, for a quick snapshot of your system's identity, unname is a great starting point.
Okay.
It'll tell you the kernel name, version, and other basic details.
Okay, so unname is like checking the system's ID card.
Right.
But what if I want a more visually appealing presentation of this information? That's where NeoFetch comes in, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
NeoFetch takes those system details and presents them in a stylish and informative way,
Right.
often incorporating your distribution's logo and even ASCII art.
It's like getting a personalized system report with a touch of flair. Now, what about those everyday utilities that we often take for granted? Things like calendars, checking memory usage, or monitoring disk space.
Those are essential for keeping your system running smoothly. For calendars, there's the classic mental command.
Right.
To see how your memory is being used, free provides a clear breakdown.
And for those times when you're running low on disk space, df comes to the rescue,
Right.
showing you how much space each partition is using.
Exactly. These commands were like the gauges on your car's dashboard, letting you monitor the vital signs of your system.
Speaking of monitoring, let's talk about processes.
Yeah.
Those programs and tasks that are constantly running behind the scenes, keeping your system alive and kicking.
Managing processes is a crucial aspect of Linux system administration.
Right.
And we have a powerful set of commands for monitoring, controlling, and even terminating those processes.
Let's start with ABES's and top two classic commands for getting a glimpse into the world of running processes. What are their strengths and weaknesses?
apes gives you a static snapshot of the processes running at a particular moment.
Okay.
It's great for quick checks or for getting a list of specific processes.
And TOP, on the other hand, provides a dynamic, real-time view of system resource usage,
Right.
including CPU, memory, and processes.
Exactly. It's like watching a live performance of your system's activity,
Right.
showing you which processes are consuming the most resources.
So if my system is feeling sluggish, TOP can help me identify the culprit. But what if I want a more interactive and visually appealing process viewer?
For that, there's htop, a favorite among Linux users for its colorful interface and intuitive navigation.
htop is definitely a go-to for me when I need to delve into the world of processes.
Yeah.
But what happens when a process becomes unresponsive or starts consuming too many resources?
Yeah.
How do we regain control?
That's where the kill and kill commands come into play.
Right.
They allow you to terminate processors, either by their process ID or by their name.
So if my web browser is acting up, I could use pkill Firefox to quickly end it.
Exactly. These commands are like having a safety switch for your processes, allowing you to shut them down if they start misbehaving.
Now, before we move on to the next category of commands, I want to touch on one more essential aspect of system management: services.
Services are those background processes that provide essential functions for your system, like networking, printing, and web serving.
And Linux provides a powerful system called systemd for managing these services.
Right. Systemd is the init system used by most modern Linux distributions.
Okay.
And it offers a unified way to control and monitor services.
And the command we use to interact with systemd is systemdown.
Exactly. Systemctl lets you start, stop, restart, and check the status of various system services.
Okay.
It's an essential tool for any Linux administrator.
Okay, so we've covered the basics of monitoring system performance, managing processes, and controlling services. Now, I'm curious about those commands that help us learn, troubleshoot, and access information.
Those are essential for both beginners and experienced users alike.
Right.
And perhaps the most important command in this category is man, short for manual.
Ah, yes. Man, the command that unlocks the vast knowledge base of Linux documentation.
Exactly. Every command, every library, every system call, they all have detailed documentation available through the man pages.
It's like having a comprehensive encyclopedia of Linux at your fingertips.
But what if you just need a quick reminder of what a command does without delving into the full manual?
Yeah.
That's where Compellerdis comes in handy.
Right.
Precisely. Well, Compellerdis provides a concise one-line description of a command's purpose, which is often enough to jog your memory or clarify its basic function.
It's like a quick cheat sheet for the command line. Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about a command that's essential for anyone working with the internet: curl.
Curl, the Swiss Army knife for web interactions.
I've heard so much about it, but I've never really explored its full capabilities.
Well, curl is incredibly versatile. It can download files, upload data, send HTTP requests, interact with web APIs, you name it.
Wow, it sounds like curl can handle just about any task involving data transfer over the internet.
It can. It's a powerful tool for web developers, system administrators, and anyone who needs to interact with web services.
Okay, curl is officially on my list of commands to master.
Good.
Now, let's talk about another essential aspect of working with files: compression.
Ah, yes, compression.
Right.
The art of shrinking files down to save space and make them easier to transfer. And Linux provides two classic commands for this: zip and unzip.
Zip creates those compressed archives that we're all familiar with,
Right.
bundling multiple files together and reducing their overall size.
Exactly. And unzip does the opposite, extracting files from a zip archive and restoring them to their original form.
These commands are lifesavers when dealing with large downloads, backups, or simply trying to keep your file system organized.
Absolutely. They're essential tools for any Linux user.
Right.
Now, let's shift our focus to a set of commands that might seem simple at first glance,
Okay.
but they're incredibly useful for viewing file content without having to open them in a full-fledged text editor.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these commands.
Well, imagine you have a massive log file, and you just want to quickly see the first few lines or the last few lines.
Yay.
That's where head and tail come in handy.
Head shows you the beginning of a file, and tail shows you the end. They're like quick peeks into the contents of a file.
Exactly. And they're especially useful when working with large files or log files that are constantly being updated.
Now, what about less?
Yeah,
I remember hearing that it's a great way to view large files without overwhelming your terminal.
you're right.
Right.
Less lets you browse through a file one screen at a time, allowing you to scroll up and down, search for specific text, and even jump to specific lines.
It's like having a built-in pager for your terminal, making it much easier to navigate large files.
Precisely. These commands might seem simple,
Right.
but they can save you a lot of time and effort when working with files.
Now, before we wrap up this section, I want to touch on another crucial aspect of working with files: searching and comparing.
Okay.
These are essential tasks when you're dealing with large amounts of data or code.
Absolutely. And Linux provides a powerful set of commands for these tasks, starting with the legendary grep.
Grep, the command line superhero for text searching. It's a command I've always been a bit intimidated by, but I know it's incredibly powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
Grep allows you to search through files for lines that match a specific pattern.
Okay.
You can use it to find a particular word, a phrase, or even a complex regular expression.
So if I'm looking for a needle in a haystack of text, grep is my go-to tool. But what if I need to go beyond simple pattern matching and perform more advanced text processing?
That's where awk comes into play.
Right.
Think of awk as a mini programming language,
Okay.
specifically designed for working with text data.
It sounds a bit intimidating, but I'm starting to see how powerful it could be.
It is. awk lets you extract specific fields from lines of text, perform calculations, manipulate text in various ways, and even generate reports.
Right.
It's a versatile tool that can be used for a wide range of tasks.
Okay, awk is definitely on my list of commands to explore further.
Good.
Now let's talk about comparing files. This is essential for tracking changes in code or documents, or simply verifying that two files are identical.
Right. And we have two main commands for this, C and diff.
So what's the difference between them?
C compares two files byte by byte,
Huh.
essentially checking if they're exactly the same. It's a quick and easy way to verify if two files have identical content.
And diff focuses on showing you the specific lines that have been added, deleted, or modified between two files.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Diff is essential for tracking changes in code, configuration files, or any other text-based documents.
It's like having a side-by-side comparison tool for your text files, making it easy to see what's changed.
Precisely. These commands are essential for anyone working with code, data, or any other type of text-based files.
Now, before we move on to the final set of commands, I want to touch on one more important aspect of file management: sorting.
Sorting is crucial for organizing data, making it easier to analyze and process. And Linux provides a powerful command for this, sort.
Sort, as the name suggests, it allows you to sort lines of text alphabetically, numerically, or based on other criteria.
Right. It's a versatile command that can be used to organize data in a variety of ways.
Right.
You can sort in ascending or descending order, sort based on specific columns or fields within lines of text, and even merge multiple sorted files.
It sounds like sort could be a real time saver when dealing with large amounts of data.
It can be. And finally, we have one of the most powerful and versatile commands in the Linux arsenal: find.
Find the command that can locate any file anywhere on your system.
That's a good way to put it. Find allows you to search for files based on a wide range of criteria,
Okay.
including name, size, modification date, owner, permissions, and more.
It's like having a search engine for your entire file system.
Exactly. And you could even use find to execute commands on the files it finds,
Right.
making it a powerful tool for automating file management tasks.
Wow, that's incredible. It sounds like find could save me hours of frustration when searching for files.
It definitely can.
Yeah.
Find is a command you'll want to master as you become more familiar with Linux.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this section, exploring commands for everything from monitoring system performance to searching and sorting files. I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, but also incredibly empowered by all these tools at our disposal.
It's a lot to take in, but don't worry.
Yeah.
The key is to practice and experiment with these commands. The more you use them, the more familiar they'll become.
And remember, the Linux community is always there to help. There are countless online resources, tutorials, and forums where you can find answers to your questions and learn from experienced users.
That's right. The Linux community is incredibly welcoming and supportive. Don't hesitate to reach out for help or share your knowledge with others.
All right, we've covered a ton of ground already, from the building blocks of file management to the intricacies of network diagnostics.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling there are still some hidden gems waiting to be unearthed in the world of Linux commands.
You're absolutely right.
Okay.
There's always more to discover.
Yeah.
For instance, let's talk about a command that's particularly useful for system administrators or anyone who wants to get a quick glimpse into the activity on a system finger.
Okay. Finger?
Yeah.
That one sounds intriguing. I don't think I've ever used it before.
Right.
What kind of information does it reveal?
Well, imagine being able to see who's currently logged into a server or get some basic details about a specific user account.
Right.
That's essentially what Finger allows you to do.
So it's like a quick way to check the pulse of a system, see who's active and what they might be up to.
Exactly.
Okay.
It can provide information like the user's full name, their last login time, how long they've been idle, and even the contents of their .plan file, which in the old days was used for sharing status updates or contact information.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I can definitely see how that could be useful for system administrators, especially in those who's doing what moments.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about a domain that's crucial for understanding how the internet works.
Okay.
DNS.
DNS.
Right.
The domain name system.
Yeah.
The system that translates human-readable domain names into those numerical IP addresses that computers understand.
Exactly.
Right.
And Linux provides some powerful tools for delving into the world of DNS, starting with Dig.
Dig.
Yeah.
I've heard that name whispered in hushed tones among network gurus. What makes it so special?
Well, imagine being able to interrogate a DNS server and get detailed answers about a particular domain name.
Right.
That's essentially what Dig allows you to do.
So it's not just about getting the IP address of a website. It's about understanding the various records associated with a domain, like mail server settings or the authoritative name servers.
You got it.
Okay.
Dig is a powerful tool for anyone working with DNS,
Yeah.
whether you're a system administrator, a network engineer, or simply someone who's curious about how the internet's addressing system works.
It definitely sounds like a command worth exploring further.
Yeah.
But for those times when you just need a quick DNS lookup without all the bells and whistles of Dig,
Right.
what's the go-to command?
In those situations, Host is your friend.
Okay.
It's a simpler alternative
Right.
that provides a straightforward answer to your DNS query, typically showing you the IP address or host name associated with the domain name.
Okay, so Host is for those quick checks, and Dig is for when you need to delve deeper into the DNS records.
Precisely.
Okay.
And speaking of investigation,
Yeah.
let's not forget about Who's.
Yes. Who's the command that unmasks the owner of a domain name?
Right.
I've used that before to check domain registration details and see who's behind a particular website.
It's a valuable tool for researchers, journalists, and anyone who needs to gather information about a domain name.
Okay, so we've covered some powerful tools for exploring DNS and uncovering information about domain names.
Yeah.
Now, are there any other niche networking commands that we should be aware of?
Definitely. Let's talk about ARP, which deals with the ARP table.
ARP, short
Okay.
for Address Resolution Protocol.
Yeah.
The protocol that maps those numerical IP addresses to the physical MA addresses of network devices.
Right. Think of the ARP table as a local directory for your network, helping devices find each other based on their IP and MA addresses.
And the ARP command lets us interact with this table, right?
Exactly. You can use it to view the current entries, add new entries, delete entries, and even clear the entire table. It's a handy tool for network troubleshooting or for those times when you need to understand the empty address mappings on your network.
That makes sense. Now, what about wireless networks?
Yeah.
Are there any specific commands that are essential for managing Wi-Fi connections in Linux?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you're dealing with wireless networks, you want to familiarize yourself with iconfig.
iConfig.
Right.
It sounds like it's all about configuring those wireless interfaces.
You got it. iConfig lets you view and set various parameters for your wireless connection, like the ESID, the name of the Wi-Fi network, the mode, managed or ad hoc, the channel, and more.
So if I need to connect to a different Wi-Fi network or adjust my wireless settings, iConfig is my go-to command.
Precisely.
Okay.
It gives you a good level of control over your wireless connections.
Now, before we wrap up this deep dive into the world of Linux commands, I want to touch on one more command that's often overlooked, but plays a fundamental role in how your system is identified on the network.
Yeah.
Hostname.
Yes, hostname the command that reveals the name of your Linux machine.
It's a simple command,
Yeah.
but it's used for all sorts of important things like network communication, remote access, and even just identifying your computer, among others, on a network.
Right. It's one of those foundational commands that you might not use every day,
Right.
but it's crucial for how your system interacts with the network.
Well, I think we've covered an impressive range of Linux commands in this deep dive.
Oh, yeah?
From the basics of file management to the intricacies of networking and system administration, we've explored tools that can empower you to truly master the Linux command line.
Absolutely.
And remember, this is just the beginning.
It is.
The world of Linux commands is vast and constantly evolving.
Right.
There are countless other commands to discover, each with its own unique purpose and capabilities.
There are.
It's definitely a journey of continuous learning and exploration. What advice would you give to those who are just starting out on their Linux command line adventure?
My advice would be to embrace the learning process.
All right.
Don't be afraid to experiment, to
Right.
try new commands, and to seek out resources like online tutorials, documentation, and forums.
Right.
The Linux community is incredibly helpful and welcoming, and there's always someone willing to share their knowledge and help you along the way.
That's great advice. And as you become more familiar with the command line, you'll find yourself combining commands, creating scripts, and automating tasks in ways you never imagined possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Linux command line is a powerful and flexible tool.
Right.
Once you master it, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it.
So there you have it. You've been armed with an arsenal of essential Linux commands, and we've given you a taste of the power and flexibility that the command line offers. Now it's up to you to continue exploring, experimenting, and mastering this incredible operating system.
Go forth and conquer the command line. The world of Linux awaits.